All right, well, we will go ahead and get started. We're a minute or two after 11 here. We may have one or two more still jump on, but this is your official welcome. Thank you for joining us today. Our fireside chats are a place where merchant services professionals come together to talk about how we can stay connected, informed, and inspired in the work that we do. So we've been having some different topics week to week. This week we're talking about preparing for tomorrow's world in merchant services. It's really interesting because we've been on these fireside chats. We started them just before the COVID-19 pandemic really kicked off. So I think that most of us we're not expecting to be living in the world that we are, but it's really kind of nice that we've been riding out this situation together. So today, well, not just today, but earlier this week, there were a number of governors throughout the United States who started introducing plans for reopening parts or all of their states on different schedules. Particularly here in Pennsylvania, Governor Wolf has targeted May 8th as the date that in Pennsylvania we will start some kind of a plan of reopening or a rollout. So now that we have a better sense of timing around when some of these social distancing restrictions are going to be lifted, we have some sense of maybe a target as to when we get back to some kind of new normal, although I think most of us are expecting that we're not going to return to the world that we were in before. But just taking all these things into account, we're going to be talking about preparing for tomorrow's world and what that might look like. So our first question, I'm going to ask Ion first. And Ion, do you mind? I know you always do. I'll ask you, but would you just introduce yourself for the audience and let them know what you do with Navigator?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ion Creation. I've been in payments 15 years, and I'm the co-founder of Navigator.
Thank you so much. We may or may not see Ben Schmink today. For those of you who are regulars on the call, we know we usually have Ben with us. He may or may not be popping in. If he is, we will hear from his expertise. But if not, we'll continue our group discussion. Well, I see we have Don Keating with us today. He's another part of the marketing team with Navigator. And so we welcome anybody to join in and to raise your voice. We talk about any of your questions if you have any thoughts. So we're going to open up very generally, very, very general question for you, Ion. What do you think the world of merchant services is going to look like as we go through this opening up period? What do you expect industry-wide?
Okay, so merchants in the first phase, the first step will be to look at their processes and look to streamline their processes and preserve expenses, control expenses. I believe if I would be a merchant, that would be the first thing I will look right away to preserve the revenue I have and reduce the cost as much as I can. Second step would be to adopt technology that would allow merchants to be omnipresent, and I'm talking about e-commerce presence, mobile presence, and kiosk presence. Unattended devices to order products and services. And then the third, as a merchant, and again, I really believe this is going to be a trend, is merchants now will be more inclined to adopt new marketing strategies, and they will probably expand their business by adopting the digital marketing and trying to bring customers via virtual world to purchase products and services. So those are the three trends I see myself.
Got it. Thank you so much for sharing. Appreciate that. We know you've been in merchant services for a long time and have an eagle-eye view or a good perspective of what we may expect. Again, anybody else out in the audience who works in merchant services in any kind of capacity, any projections for what you think this is going to look like? How, any projections for the merchant service industry at large? We'll pause for just one moment to see if anybody has any additional thoughts before we move to the next question.
Yeah, actually, camera. Yeah, building on what Ian said, the restaurants. I don't have a lot of restaurants in my portfolio. I'm sure I've said grocery stores. With my grocery stores, I'm getting questions, and I actually emailed since our last meeting here, emailed and said, here, I have a contact list, pay at the curb, from a phone, a tablet, mobile device, and e-commerce capability, virtual terminal, that kind of stuff. Yeah, the restaurants, and that's grocery stores. The restaurants, if not already, they're looking to preserve their existence. Like Ian said, online ordering, app, all that sort of stuff. It's survival for them. For some, it's going to be helping. People are still coming into the grocery stores, but the restaurants are forced. Boom, take out curbside. So, yeah, it's a new world. It's going to be interesting. We have to get ourselves ready, or we're going to. I didn't even think. You're right. Ian's first point, reducing the cost. We've got to be careful on that. Is there going to be? There's a lot of. I think people maybe once a year in their downtime, like wintertime, cyclical downtime of businesses, they're looking at how do we save costs? Let's renew our thinking for the year. But this is going to force everybody to really look at everything. So, yeah. Anyway, my thoughts.
Yeah, good insights. Thank you, Pete. This actually touches on a question that we're going to talk about shortly as well, just about, what changes are we seeing that are maybe going to remain permanent, and maybe we'll actually just jump down to that. So there are a lot of experts are expecting that some of the changes we've seen in consumer behavior are going to stick around. Some of those ways might be, the way they consume media, ways that people shop, brands that they trust. What types of changes in merchant behavior specifically do you think will remain permanent or semi-permanent that we should prepare for? I know something that you just touched on, Pete, was this idea of alternative types of payment, alternative types of pickup. People may have actually found that they like that COVID-19 or not, they may like not having to get out of their car. They might like that level of service. So I'm wondering if you guys could touch on that point a little bit more heavily, or just other suggestions or other changes that you think we should prepare for in the new normal that may stick around. I'm going to ask Ion that question first.
Okay. First, we all know that the way to communicate with people are verbal, face-to-face, which will probably still be pushed back for a couple of months, in writing or by phone. I believe that those three main ways of communication are things of the past, and I really believe that communicating through video would be a new trend. The fact that we communicate today or via video conference, and everybody adopted this way of communication, in my opinion, they will be most likely open to listen to a salesperson via a video message instead of a phone call. That way they can see that person, and they can see their body gestures, and they can see the person who's going to service them. So we here at Navigator, we just yesterday introduced or upgraded our lead funnel by adding the video message ability. So when you send a link to a merchant, you can include a video message with that as well. So that's one trend I see coming. And I'm afraid to say this, but the usage of regular phones will go down because people prefer to communicate via video, and we all have a Facebook Live or a Facebook communication or WhatsApp or all these apps that makes the phone dialing or the voice communication obsolete, in my opinion. That's a trend of the future.
Yeah, it's an interesting insight, Ion. I've been on a lot of different types of Zoom calls and video calls over the last couple of weeks, and it's really interesting to watch everybody's kind of growth through their comfort level on the video platforms. People have become quickly more comfortable with this format because they've had to be. So I think it's an interesting insight that you think that may stick around or maybe even be more proliferated or take some of the space that cell phones or phone calls had been playing. I think it's a great thought. Anything else from the audience? Thoughts about changes that might stick around?
I have something to add, if it's okay. They're not video today, though, but I will talk. I think it's really important, like you said, a lot of people just had this general fear of being on the camera or talking in a group like this, and that they've kind of gotten forced away from that. And I don't think now that they've got a taste of how to do it, that they're going to be as afraid. So I think that is going to keep going. The other thing, too, is people really want instantaneous responses and answers when they're asking for things. So if you could pop on with the video or with some of these new technologies that they have with these chat bots, a lot of them have gotten so good that you don't even know if you're talking to a human or AI. And I think that's going to continue because people can ask questions and get instant answers anytime they want.
Agreed. Also good insights. Thanks, Don. Anybody else on the call?
Hi, I'll chime in for just a brief minute. I also don't have video, but I think you're going to see a bigger reduction in cash use. I think the use of folks getting more familiar with their NFC transactions is going to increase. And I think the technology surrounding that is going to be a bit more ramped up coming into the future. So I think that's going to do a couple of things. I think that's going to increase the use of mobile wallets dramatically. I think if somebody looks at statistics between 2019 and what will end up being at least the spring of 2020, if not all of 2020, I think it's going to be a very big statistical difference. I think further cash is going to decline because just folks are going to anticipate that this could come up back again in the fall and winter of 2020. Therefore, we're going to have to rebound back into these familiar buying patterns, depending upon the circumstances and health-wise, what happens again. But I think business is going to change dramatically because of this, because if it's not this, it could potentially be the flu or some other, thought process of just preserving one's health and the health of others around you. I think it's going to further increase usage of new types of payments that are either cutting edge or going to be picking up steam, particularly, for instance, gift cards. I think plastic gift cards are going to very quickly start being ushered out. And I think the electronic gift card is going to take its place. So folks that are using email-driven gift card codes and capabilities and in-house service, so long as it stays with the merchant, is going to see a pretty big uptick this year. And it might be a slow pattern depending upon who gets in front of it. But things like that are going to maintain a larger growth pattern perhaps than just the typical ways we've seen folks trying to brand their market traditionally over the last 10 years, because those branding pieces have been very, very important for businesses. It's how they get in front of people. And now that getting in front of people has changed into this technological environment compared to the face-to-face environment, it's going to get reinvented. And I think there's going to be some new technologies over the next 2 years, just looking very, short term, that will pop up and probably be very surprising. So it's kind of exciting to see what that'll end up being. But if you're looking at technology that integrate all of those components, from everything from NFC and electronic gift cards, mobile payments, and being able to just take your point of sale on the go with you even, those kinds of things are going to be very important and cutting edge for businesses to now start seeking out in a most cost-effective manner beyond trying to find all the third parties to combine themselves. So those resources will end up gaining a lot of momentum and speed. And it's going to be interesting to see exactly which trends are ahead of the curve and what pops up even after the fact.
Yeah, really, really great insights there, Jared. A lot of good stuff there. Talking about the thoughts about cash kind of going away, and then also just the rise of these new ways that we're doing things. I think that something goes along with that too is user experience. People are going to be starting to crave and expect a seamless user experience, with their payments. So I think it all kind of ties together. Ion, anything to add to that before we move on?
No, I think Jared did a great job explaining all that. So thank you, Jared.
All right, great. Thanks very much. So our next question of the day then, we wanted to touch on the idea of communications with new merchants. So something we've been talking about pretty heavily during the last couple of weeks are just strategies for retention. We all kind of said, hey, this is a weird period. It's really important to not let people slip out the back door. How can we retain our merchants during this uncertain time? So we've spent a decent amount of time talking about that. But again, sticking with today's topic, the idea of preparing for tomorrow's world, we may be getting ready to start having some conversations again, or start maybe putting feelers out there for new merchants, new business, new clients. And I'm wondering if we can hear a little bit, Ion, from you about what you think about how we start that conversation. What do you recommend in terms of timing, messaging, making connections? Because again, we're stepping back into this new world, but it's not the same one we left exactly. So what are your thoughts there?
I will start with what I actually started this conversation is right now, the best way to engage a merchant is to offer your expertise in helping them streamline and preserving their current revenue. That's step one. And in doing that, I think with the increase of technology use, you should refer or you should bring into the equation third-party company like Navigator. They would validate your offer. They would support your message, support your offer. Meaning, if you tell the merchant that, hey, your claim is I'm transparent and I'm giving the best solution at the best price possible, you should back up that and prove that using technologies like Navigator. That's one aspect. The second aspect is starting to look at new ways to increase revenue. So they will not be able to stay in business using the current or the previous way of reaching to clients and engaging their customers. So you have to be able to teach your clients new technology, the omnipresence, to teach them marketing, or to refer them to marketing specialists, to basically tell them the importance of branding themselves. Like, I don't think branding was important until now, and this is more than ever a new aspect that if you don't adopt, you will be extinct as a business owner. So it's a lot, and more than ever, people need assistance, and they are looking for help, and that's a perfect way to engage with the merchants.
Awesome, thank you. Any additional thoughts from any of the participants on the call today about ways to step back into that conversation and what that might look like? I'll just pause for a moment.
Yeah, I'll add something. Kind of like we piggybacked on everything on the call. It seems like we're right around the same answers, but I think really going forward, the mom and pop shops that used to be cash only are going to force out of that because their business was basically taken away by this pandemic. That's going to move forward into having people being able to conduct business with any kind of payment that they'd like. They don't want to actually tell a customer no. And that's going to push them into even more digital currencies, such as Bitcoin. And you hear even some of these governments are talking about digital dollars. So that goes right into the mobile wallets on their phone, where it can pretty much be touchless and also instant.
Great, thank you. Hi, Danny. Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. So one of the things that I've been finding maneuvering this or trying to, move through our what we're calling new normal is that one of the biggest keys I'm finding is just reach out and let people be seen and heard. That is huge, because I may not be in merchant services directly, but I've been around merchant services for 20 plus years. And what I found is, especially during hard times, when people get that feeling that they can't be seen and heard, then the fear rises and then the panic rises. But if we can just give them that little, like, hey, I'm here, I feel that that's the biggest thing right now, is to stay connected with as many as possible.
Thanks, Danny. Good insights. Agreed. Although we are again starting up new normal, all these phrases keep being tossed around, there is still undoubtedly a lot of anxiety, a lot of concern. We haven't quite come to the other side yet, and we still don't really have an idea of when that other side is going to arrive or if it's going to arrive. So it's a great point. Empathy, I think, still continues to be very important, and allowing people to be heard. Very much agreed. Other thoughts from the team?
Thank you.
Okay, well, I'm actually going to kick it over to Ion again for a second, because I am wondering how Navigator is preparing for the future. I have heard a couple of snippets of conversations about some new functionalities that are coming, new stuff going on with Navigator. And so, Ion, I'm wondering, can you give us a sneak peek of what you are talking about?
Yes, thank you for the question. We've been working very hard since the lockdown started, actually, to reposition our solutions and arm our clients merchant services professionals, ISOs, agents, banks, everyone in the payments business, with solutions that will allow them to extend their arms around their clients, to retain them, and offer that same type of support to their prospects. If their prospects are not nurtured by their existing relationship or providers, our clients, Navigator, would have the tools that they need to basically nurture those leads and nurture those clients. So I don't want to give too much details on this call right now because we are a week away from making the big announcement of a new solution that we launch. But what's coming, it's really exciting. And we've been working very hard for 1 month since we started to be ready to open up when the economy is opening up for us to launch this new solution that does more than just statement analysis. Right now, we are known as a company who does a merchant statement analysis 300 times faster than doing it manually. That still becomes part of our solution, and that's our core of what we do. We added a lot more functionality that will help agents be successful moving forward.
Okay, so you're not going to give us the full details. We will have to keep waiting. Any sense of timing is when we might be letting people know about this? Like a week, 2 weeks, a month, 2 months?
Beginning of May. We will hopefully, we are doing testing right now. Hopefully next week we can go live with some beta clients, but for sure, May 1st, this new solution is available to our current clients and to everybody else new coming to Navigator. It's going to be really exciting. I'm so excited myself to see it in action.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that. We look forward to it. I look forward to seeing all that is to come. So with our last few minutes here, I think we might go back to an exercise we did a few weeks ago. We don't do it every week. We just do it when we have some extra time. But I think it's a nice way to end the call. We borrowed this from a friend of ours named John Whitehall. He's a sales trainer. He's great. But he likes to sometimes start his presentations or his sessions with a big, fat positive. And that is just some positive note that you can leave with the group today. Just a couple of sentences, anything personal with your business, just with the world, anything good. So just a big fat positive in your life. I'm going to ask Ion if he would be willing to give us his first.
I'll be personal this time. As most of you know, I'm a Orthodox Christian, and this week was our Easter Sunday, and it gave me the ability to disconnect from the work, which I've been very busy the last couple of weeks, and take a full day off and spend time with my family and enjoy the resurrection. Christos resurrected. So that's my big fat positive this week, my highlight of this week. But now I'm excited about what's coming in the Navigator world, the new rollout and the new solution. So personal and business. So those are the two that highlights my week right now.
Thank you so much, Ion. Is anybody else willing to share a big fat positive today? I'm hoping we'll get everybody today, but if we don't, that's okay. Anybody else willing to share?
I'll jump in. I moved back to the area about a year ago. I'm renting a house. I'm coming up to the end of the lease, and the owner has offered to sell the place to me. So I was looking to get property or do something anyway. So in the midst of a little silver lining, in the midst of all this madness, I'll just transition from being tenant to homeowner, and the no pets restriction will go away. So I'll go rescue a dog or cat and just settle in.
That's great news. That's awesome.
Yep.
Very good. Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'll go next. A couple of big positive things have been happening. I've been working with Ion in the background on some marketing that we've been doing, and I think like he's kind of talking about, it's kind of almost ready to come out. So I'm excited to see that live as well. And just going through and having some really great conversations about business and different directions we can take, and some different marketing and things that I'm going to be doing in the future. So just it's good to see movement forward, I guess.
It sure is. Agreed. Anybody else on the call? We have a few left. Anybody else for the Big Fat Positive? I'll do mine if I have to, but. All right, I will give you mine for the day then. I'm sorry about the background noise. My fiance is just about to come in. My Big Fat Positive for the day is that I might be able to get my passport in time to go to Canada this summer if the borders opens. There's a lot of big ifs there. Don't know if we'll be able to get on an international flight. Don't know if Canada will let tourists in, but I have a trip booked with girlfriends for the end of June. And I was able to find a place to get my passport, and she thinks that they are on track. So. A lot of big ifs, but I have a ray of hope that I may still be hiking the mountains in Canada this summer. So cross your fingers for me.
Cool.
Yeah. Anybody else before we wrap? We're down to our last minute or so here. Anybody else before we go? Okay, then thank you very much for joining us today. We're just about at 11:30. Appreciate everybody's participation today. Really good thoughts, really good insights. It was really great to hear from some folks today. So we'll look forward to seeing you next week. We'll be here again every week, 11 o'clock, 11 a.m. Eastern time. So thanks very much for your participation and for joining, and we'll see you again soon. Have a great week.
Thank you.